These 1960s cell lines, these immortal, continuously replicating, also known as cancerous cell lines, do have a shelf life. A 3-month gestation female in China, the 9th abortion of her batch, was harvested from a water bag abortion so her organs could be harvested out while she was still alive. And she was used to make the Walvax 2 cell line, which is now being considered as a replacement for our current cell lines, MRC5 and WI38. And a lot of people know about Walvax, but there are a couple other cell lines as well that are being considered, IMR90 and IMR91 from a baby boy and girl fetus respectively, and they're also considering those. Does it matter to you if a baby was killed for a perceived health benefit in the 1960s, or if that baby was killed in our own decade, or in a foreign country, or in your own? And again, how many babies were really sacrificed until these cell lines worked? It's very difficult to say for certain. But how about the fact that through undercover videos, which many shared on social media, and they were very enraged about, that we have evidence that Planned Parenthood is selling the organs from the babies that they are murdering for hundreds of dollars per organ? Why is there a market for these organs in the first place? The biotech industry is expanding at an exponential pace. New cell lines and medicines are being developed with these babies' organs. When we cast our vote in favor of utilizing products created from abortion, those products being in the US, the MMR, chickenpox, Hep A, shingles, rabies, and certain polio vaccines, we signal that this practice of organ harvesting of aborted babies is acceptable to us. In a market economy, unless we say no, by stopping our consumption of unethical products, they will continue to be produced, and new products in a similar vein will also be produced. But let's just pretend, okay? Let's pretend like the choice is isolated. Let's pretend like it was only 2 babies. Let's pretend like the choices that we make don't impact the direction businesses move or the way that governments legislate. Let's pretend that we live in a vacuum and dismiss many relevant facts from the literature and pretend that there were just 2 babies sacrificed from the 1960s for the benefit of all. Can good come from that? We can do better than answer the question of whether good can come from that. We can look at whether good has come from that. And that is what I hope to elucidate for all of you today. Can good come from utilizing the product of child sacrifice? Jesus taught us to lose our lives in God's service so that we might find them. And his entire life and death and resurrection were a testament to that truth. He did not teach that we should sacrifice others for our own lives. That would be a satanic perversion of God's law of sacrifice. The Bible and the Book of Mormon both teach simple formulas for knowing whether something is good or bad. By their fruits ye shall know them. So what is a true fruit of utilizing a product of child sacrifice for a perceived health benefit? Before we can recognize the fruit, we have to identify the seed. Today, I'm going to argue that the seed in all of this is fear, which is ultimately the desire to preserve self. People essentially, especially pro-life people, would not normally support something like this, cashing in on a benefit from an abortion. But when people are afraid, they do things that they might not normally do. Forgive me for the horrible image that I'm going to describe to you. But what if your child, even the whole neighborhood, came down with a really bad bout of the measles, and you know how to cook up a home remedy for it? One essential ingredient to your remedy was a 12-week gestation baby. Would you go to your sister, perform an abortion, and dissect the lungs out of your niece from your sister's womb for that remedy? Even if your sister said, "Here, take her, I don't need her." If you had a home remedy for chickenpox, And you can make enough to supply the whole country, and you only needed one 14-week gestation baby boy. Would you skip on over to your pregnant next-door neighbor's home, with mom's permission, of course, and cut out her baby and his lungs and pop them into your stock pot without a thought? Of course not. Entertaining such thoughts as these is absolutely repulsive to us, and it should be. But some think because these women consented to have their babies murdered and they didn't perform the abortions or organ harvesting themselves, that they bear no responsibility. But they are, in fact, morally complicit with those heinous acts by virtue of being participants in receiving the benefit. In a market economy with a growing biotech industry, our purchases are a vote, and they absolutely matter. Okay, so the seed in all of this is fear. I hope I've convinced you of that. It gets us to go along and compromise where we normally wouldn't. It is fed by extortion and commoditization of humanity. The trunk and the branches are damage to health, damage to relationships, and integrity, damage to integrity from violating one's own conscience and ethical code. The leaves that feed and energize this seed are blind trust and authority. I'll just let someone else tell me whether this is right or necessary. You might have seen that before. Ultimately, the fruit is tyrannical rule based on utilitarian ethic, including a loss of bodily autonomy. This is being implemented in law right now. Stick with me now. I'm going to help you visualize what I mean by all of this and elaborate a little bit further. Human beings are tribal ritualistic beings, and throughout all time and eternity, we have and continue to express our deepest devotion and beliefs through rituals. Some of these involve sacrifice in one form or another. Other cultures have utilized other variations on the theme of sacrifice, and some are more regimented and ritualistic than others. But with or without a religious context, it's true that all people either sacrifice their own comforts, time, energy, and desires to reach a certain aim, or they sacrifice others' comfort, time, energy, and desires for their own aims. There's two ways to sacrifice: yourself or others.